All right, the final part of Chapter 7, 7.6, is going to tie all this back together to that original bit. Remember, we had catabolism, that was breaking down of molecules, releasing energy and capturing it, and then it's going to be coupled to building new molecules, which is anabolism or biosynthesis. So we're going to talk about building new molecules, and we'll talk briefly about nitrogen, which we've talked about in the nitrogen cycle, but where does it go? So catabolism, that powered all of this, right? We broke things down. Now we connect it to growth, or biosynthesis, building cell parts, molecules. That's called anabolism, right? It's the reverse, but it requires energy. So we've captured energy from food, and now we're using that energy to build new stuff. In a lot of cases, the pathways that build molecules are really just the reverse of the ones to break them down. So you, as an organism, you can actually make glucose. You can run the TCA cycle in reverse and do this process called gluconeogenesis, where you can build new glucose, and you can build it up into polysaccharides called glycogen and things like that. You can also build fatty acids and lipids, amino acids and peptides, but to build amino acids and peptides, you're going to need nitrogen. Bacteria do these same things. They can do these pathways, and this assimilation part, right, where we can take nitrogen from the atmosphere and fix it, that's what bacteria do. You cannot do this. So to get your nitrogen, you have to eat things that contain nitrogen. But bacteria can take it from the atmosphere and fix it into workable forms and then incorporate that into amino acids and proteins. And that's where you ultimately will get your amino acids and nitrogen. In the process, many things get made, right? Microbes are going to make things like antibiotics to fight with their competitors, toxins to possibly do something in their host, quorum signals, biofilm matrices. We've talked about all of these things. So biosynthesis is really just the reverse of catabolism, of breaking things down. To do biosynthesis, you need to have 4 different things, and I will ask you to know 2 of these on a test. So you're going to need to assemble carbon skeletons, which we talked about. So you need raw materials with carbon in them. You could do that if you're a microbe by fixing CO2, building molecules by sticking CO2s together. Or if you're a heterotroph, you could consume organic molecules made by other organisms. You also need to fix nitrogen, sulfur, and phosphorus. These are necessary elements for building new molecules. Amino acids, DNA, nucleic acids, these all need these elements as well. Then you got to spend energy, right? To build new molecules, you have to build new bonds, and that requires energy. So we're going to spend the energy stored in ATP to build new molecules. And finally, you got to reduce the carbon skeletons, add electrons to them. That's building the bonds and sticking them together. This is all part of the building process. So spending the energy to reduce them is building bigger molecules from them. Those are the 4 things that need to happen for biosynthesis to occur. So one of those, nitrogen fixation, we've talked about this a bit before, but I just want to show you that it requires a large amount of energy of microbes. These microbes fix the inorganic nitrogen from the atmosphere. They take it, they do this complicated chemical reaction here and turn it into usable forms, but they spend 16 ATP in the process. You don't do this, you just eat things that have done this for you. So next time you live, thank a microbe for fixing the nitrogen that you use, right? We often use the example of rhizobia in the plant symbionts. So peas, legumes, soybeans, things like this have little nodules where these microbes live, and they fix this nitrogen here. Once we have this, what's called ammonium, you quickly got to use it or assimilate it into amino acids or other nitrogen-containing compounds because it's kind of toxic. So we take this ammonium and we add it to this carbon skeleton here, and we form an amino acid through this process. We have to spend energy to do that, but we make what's called L-glutamate, which is one of our amino acids. And from this, we can build other amino acids and so on and so forth. But we have to spend energy and use that fixed nitrogen. The microbes do this part. We just eat something that already has this made in it. Okay, so we've come full circle, right? We've done biosynthesis now, or anabolism. We've built things. We have to have assembly of carbon skeletons from intermediates, and all that carbon is ultimately coming from CO2 that was fixed by the autotrophs, stuck together. We're going to need to spend energy to do this, ATP and reduction from things like NADPH. And nitrogen gas can be fixed by bacteria into ammonium, which gets assimilated into amino acids quite quickly. And that's where a lot of our nitrogen in our body is coming from. All right, that is it for Chapter 7 and for Unit 3. So if you have any questions, make sure you shoot me an email and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Bye for now.